Today, I'd like to touch on the snare drum, and what I think I'd like to do is talk about some techniques and try and simplify the snare drum. I think that one of the things that when I go to PASIC and go to different clinics, I know sometimes my head is spinning at the end of the weekend just thinking, okay, what did I just take in? And I'd like to try and keep things as simple as possible in terms of the techniques that are involved. Now, orchestral snare drum obviously is different from marching snare drum, from drum set snare drum, from chamber music snare drum. And I think the techniques that I've learned cross over perfectly into concert and symphonic snare drum. I need to blame this on my teachers, Will Hudgens and Alan Abel. I basically stole all of their ideas. None of this is my own. Oh, a little bit. But yeah, basically we're carrying on a lineage, and when I talk about these things, they'll know exactly what I mean, and their students will know what I mean. And I think what this is about in carrying on a lineage is figuring out how to take these concepts and make them your own, and add your own ideas to them. So the first technique I'd like to talk about is called constant motion. I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to keep the snares off so you can hear me a little bit better as I talk through this. So here's constant motion. This is entirely a wrist motion, and I set up my wrist low to the drum. My stick tips are the same height from the drum. It's not a big surprise. It's probably what we're striving to do when we play the drums. We're trying to play even notes. Now, let's isolate my right hand. My right hand's going to go down and up in one single motion and return to the original position. What I'm thinking about when I do this, I'm not thinking about leaving the stick on the drum. I want to get it right back up to that position, right there. There's another rule here, and that is don't go up before you go down. More often than not, when I'm working with someone on this technique, your first response in playing the drum is we go. It's not necessary. It's also going to be counterproductive when you need to play fast. What you want is a quick motion down and up, and we're building our wrist strength. One thing about this is that it's important to recognize that I'm holding the stick very loosely in my grip here. And that way, I can get real high stick heights. If I don't hold it loosely with a little bit of angle, then I've got this phenomenon. This is not a great place to be because you've pronated your wrist completely, and it's a little uncomfortable. Over time, it's going to be perhaps damaging. So it's important to grip the stick lightly. The rest of your fingers outside of your fulcrum, for me, are just kind of resting on the stick, but not really gripping it tightly. So although this motion looks quite fast and militaristic, it's in fact a nice loose motion. So now let's use the left hand. Here's the next rule. I'm not going to send my left hand down and up until my right hand finishes what it's done. So I'm trying to maintain a stick height. I call that my plane. I want to stay right at the plane, meaning that if there's like an imaginary wall there for my stick, it's going to return right there each time. This is a good way to practice it too. If you hear a sound like this, you're not doing constant motion because you're leaving the stick down too long. So the goal is to get it right back up. So now I'm trying to make sure that each stick comes back up to the plane before the other one moves. So you might be asking yourselves, what about when you have to go fast? That's probably not going to be possible, is it? Well, you're right. At a certain point, obviously the sticks move at the same time. The thing about it is that, in theory, if you're using this technique, it should remain constant so that whatever speed you're at, you still have this going on. So even at my fastest speeds, I'm still coming up to that plane, and the stick obviously doesn't stay there for quite as long. So here, I'll show you what the breaking point is like. Right now, I'm making sure my sticks come back up to the plane individually before the other one moves. As I speed up, still the same thing, and right about here. Now the sticks are moving simultaneously. So what does this do for us? I think one of the things that's important is that it cleans up a lot of the aspects of our technique. It's the other thing I'm thinking about a lot is a straight trajectory, down and up. It's kind of an elusive thing, especially for your weak hand. So for me, when I was working on this technique, I really had to isolate my left hand and make sure that it was going straight down and up. So these are really simple ideas, but it takes some time to impart them. But yeah, I think the most important thing as you're working on this would be, we generally like to go up before we go down. And I think it'd be nice to train our hands to move down and up in one single motion with no excess motion. I'm going to be breaking these rules throughout the next hour. So, but I think this is an important place to start. You know, there are so many ways to skin a cat, as you see when you come to PASIC. I mean, every clinician has a slightly different approach to playing the drum, to playing mallets, to whatever it may be. I think the important thing is to have a foundation. And this is the foundation that I think you can break away from. And really what we're trying to do is just clean up our snare drum technique. Okay. By the way, this works in all dynamics. Okay, I demonstrated about a forte. I'm somewhere around 10 to 12 inches, the stick tips are from the drum. But I can do this at all dynamics. Let's do it real loud. And let's do it soft too. I don't have to use quite as much force for my soft dynamics. But the same idea is in place. I want to achieve a plane. I want to set that plane. I'm going to show you later on what crescendos and diminuendos look like and how I approach them. Yes?
Is this like a piston stroke?
It's a lot like a piston stroke. Yeah, in fact, I refer to it as pistons in a car because it's essentially just firing like a piston would.